Dr. Ram Kumar is sitting with me, so I'll give you a brief, more personal introduction to Dr. Ram Kumar. He writes a very humble bio for himself, and it's very hard to get a picture of him because he's usually doing pretty amazing work over in India. So he's taken a spiritual vision for a healing space, and he's making it real through collaboration. His team are creating an authentic Ayurvedic clinic that involves care for the patients, the environment, the staff, the villagers, the entire community. And when I say that, every year we celebrate Swami Swarupananda's birthday at Coimbatore by feeding the villagers at Ram Kumar's place, and also Swami Sita Ramananda's birthday. So on those birthdays, the villagers have lunch on the Swamis. And Swami Sivananda tells us to do our karma yoga with the poor, and this is what Doctor does. So Vidyagram radiates healing energy, welcomes people from all over the world to settle into a natural, simple, holistic healing space. And a stay here at Vidyagram creates change in our thought process, our activities, our diet, and our lifestyle. So these unique qualities of Dr. Ram Kumar's place inspired me to collaborate with him, and I'm really honored that he invites me and groups of people from the Yoga of Recovery training to go over and take 3 or 4 weeks of treatment in India with the doctors. And that's a little bit of what we'll talk about tonight. So personally, I have a history with India and Panchakarma treatment, which is the complete detoxification process of the Ayurvedic medical system. Is that okay, that mic? Okay. I first went there in 2003. In 2003, I was about 4 years sober. I had done my TTC in 2002. So I was working with my system, and I needed to move into deeper repair of the system. So I went with very much fear and trepidation to India for my first visit, and my intention was to go to an authentic Ayurvedic clinic and take treatment. So first I went to our ashram in Near Dam, and I met our staff there and helped with the website. And through them, they gave me recommendations, and it was very difficult to get into the places that they recommended. One of the places was your family's place in India, Ayurveda Pharmacy. So I had sent emails out, but I was told maybe there was a 1-year waiting list. So then I went and had chai at our Near Dam ashram, and I met an Indian lady, and she asked me, "What are you here doing?" And I told her it was really my hope that I would authenticate my Ayurvedic training, which I'd had in America, that I might go through the treatment so that I would be able to be experienced in it before I recommended it to someone else, and that I'd tried to get into these places, but I was unable to. And she said, "Well, it's my family that runs one of those places. So you seem very keen and sincere, so I'll make a phone call." And then she came back to me the next day and said, "You have a place from tomorrow at this Ayurvedic, very well established and renowned Ayurvedic hospital." And it wasn't the one of Ram Kumar's family, but it was one that's very familiar to him. So I've been going there every year. And then recently I made a change, and I decided to visit Ram Kumar's place, which I'd heard about. And I was so glad I did it. The circumstances of me going there that particular year, which I didn't know was going to happen, I had went to England on the way to India to see my family. And my niece had been in touch with me, and she'd been asking for help. And this was new. I would say she had a sort of sobriety that was chemically supported. And she had some mental illness. And I was flying over there thinking maybe I can get to her and just pick her up and put her in a detox. And, you know, like that's what needs to happen. And unfortunately, she died whilst I was on the plane on the way to England. And she died of a heroin overdose. she was 32 years old. So in England, I dealt with that, and, you know, it's a lot to deal with. It's a great loss, and I know there's a lot of people in this room who have gone through these losses, and we need to recover from that, the loss and the pain and the suffering that addictions around us causes, as well as the addictions within ourselves. So I arrived at your clinic with that to heal from, and I left that place with just like a completely newly formed attitude to life and collaboration and the beautiful medicine system that I study, and to see it carried out by this team of doctors. So I call them my dream team. And DREAM stands for the diet they put us on, the rest that we experience, the environment you've created, and Ayurvedic medicine, delivered in such a classical spiritual system by people who live the system of medicine every day, from the moment they wake up in the morning to when they go to bed at night. And it's such a deep system of care. So we've been talking all day what needed to be discussed up here, because the topic is the continuum of care using Ayurveda. So here am I sitting loving Ayurvedic medicine, but I'm not a doctor. So I get to come here and I get to share the years of study that I have made in Ayurvedic medicine. And I would say that I share in Yoga of Recovery in particular about Ayurveda's understanding of the cause of disease, because I found that to be very much in line with the way the disease of addiction had been described to me from the 12-step program. It's a spiritual malady. It has something of a psychological basis. It has some kind of allergic response type of thing. And then it's progressive over time. It gets worse, never better, if those habits are left unattended. And this is very close to the way Ayurveda describes disease, from misuse of the senses, failure of the intellect, and the effects of time and environment. But this system of medicine related to consciousness, so spirituality at the core, that the resolution of disease within the human would be self-realization, because Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga. And so I get to train and share from that level. But then I also really deeply wanted to bring people into the real system of medicine that is Ayurveda, that has been offered for thousands of years in the country of India. And I finally found the place that I felt was authentic enough to welcome the Westerner without selling out to the Westerner, you know, without losing the real authentic delivery, where something is required of the patient, that you're not catered to in the way that enables you to not face some of the things that you need to face. So when we talked today, we just talked about the fact that there is a need for deep physical treatment for the addictive problems that people have suffered. So there's an offering of medicine that can offer us deep metabolic repair. And you're going to see in the future that the West will come forward with this idea that there's definitely something to do with metabolism involved in mental health and addiction. And this is the message of Ayurveda for many centuries. And as we do that deep metabolic repair, then there's also this complete rebalancing of the chemicals and the hormonal system. And so that helps a lot. And then there's this rest and the need to be patient and the ability to receive care, which is something that is it's quite difficult to do, to rest and receive care in our busy lives of doing. So I take groups there, and because it is a holistic healing system, Dr. Ram Kumar is there to meet the people when some of that repair touches in on some of the deep psychological and emotional issues, because we don't need to go looking for it. It's in the body and it's in the tissues, and it's almost loved out of us with the system of medicine that you offer at your place. So it's lots of oil massages, a beautiful feeling of being mothered and cared for in a like tender, loving well, which initiates this inner healing response. You're in a safe environment, that you're with a supportive group, and the like deeper repair takes place. And it's at a level that it would be hard to describe. There's some people who here that have been on the retreat with us, so you can ask them. But one of the things that people talk about is this having anxiety healed at the skin level. Like they feel different within themselves, within their psychology, within their ability to make their way into the world and contribute again, and feeling whole. And this idea of being able to meet the world but be protected from the difficulties that they may still experience in the world through jobs and families and the troubles with addiction. So Dr. Ram Kumar will speak this evening mostly. I was just here to introduce a little bit. I hope I've introduced you a little bit to what we do as a group when we go to his place. And now Dr. Ram Kumar will offer some of the perspective as he meets the people, as years of healing, and also as you meet the groups, and this idea of this detoxification that happens in the emotional processing of sometimes undigested life events and emotional experiences that come up as we do the physical repair, and any other topic that you're moved to share with us.
Thank you. Durga ji is very generous with her words. Please don't believe her. She's sitting on Paradise Island trying to create a paradise elsewhere. I think you have the best place in the world right now, and you don't need to go anywhere else. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I must share that the place where I come from is located less than 30 kilometers away from the birthplace of the founder of this great ashram. From the birthplace of Swami Vishnudevananda ji. His birthplace is Nemmara, and my little Ayurveda village is just 30 kilometers away from there. So that could be a good reason for some of you at least, to come there. And also, our little healing village was started by 3 devotees in the lineage of Swami Sivananda from Rishikesh. They came and spent a whole week with us when we had just 2 rooms, and they took such good care of the place. They were chanting the Vedas, they were blessing everybody who was associated with the project, and we have no doubt that it is the blessings of the gurus that have helped Vaidigram, our little village, to grow where it is right now. Having said this, I must also share a small story which was inspirational for us when we started this whole project. The story is from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, where the gods, the human beings and the demons went to the Creator and asked him for a boon, asked him for some words of advice. And to each of them, he just said the syllable Da. He told the gods Da, he told the human beings Da, and he told the demons Da. And he told them, figure out for yourself what it means in your respective contexts. A few months later, the gods came back and he asked them, what did you figure out? So they said, Da stands for Dhamma. Dhamma means self-restraint. For when we are in the sattva space of the mind, in the pure creative state of mind, the chances to go overboard are very high. The chances to be driven by our senses is very high, which is what many of the gods were tending to do. And so the word Dhamma, or self-restraint, was a great piece of advice for them. Then came the human beings, and he asked them, what did you learn? So they said, we learnt Da as dana. Dana means to share, to give, to share with those who are not as fortunate as us. Because in the rajas state of mind, as we move more and more into the I space, into the I, me, mine, myself space, my tendency to be a little more greedy is very high. And so human beings were advised to share, to stop being transactional, because where there is transaction, there is no transformation. So dana was the piece of advice given to the human beings. And then came the demons or the asuras, and they were asked, what does da mean for them? And so they replied, it is daya. Daya means compassion, empathy for, in the tamasic state of mind, in the lazy, lethargic, indolent state of mind, it is all I. I am least concerned with anybody else. I eat a lot, I sleep a lot, I do everything for myself, forgetting the world out there. And so it was important that in the tamasic state of mind, we develop a little bit of empathy or compassion. So these three das, dama, dana, and daya, they are basically what the whole healing process stands for, and they are basically what Vaidyagram stands for. Vaidyagram is our village. And that's where our whole journey began, where we thought that we need to work on developing the Deva Prana state of being. The text talk about two kinds of prana. We all know prana. In prana, you can have the Deva Prana and the Asura Prana. The Deva Prana is the divine prana, the godly prana, the pure prana, the state of sattva. And you have the Asura Prana, which is more the demonic prana, the lazy prana, the lethargic prana, which is the rajas tamas prana. As we can see, the Asura Prana easily goes ahead of the Deva Prana. It is 2/3 on the Asura Prana side, that is Rajas and Tamas, and 1/3 on the Deva Prana side, which is Sattva. And that is because the natural tendency that all of us have is to go the Rajas Tamas route. On any given day, we spend a lot of time in Rajas and Tamas. The Ayurveda text will describe 9 states of Rajas and Tamas, which we will not talk about here at this late stage of the night when Tamas is starting to dominate. So we will not go into details, but...
You want to give a brief idea of what Rajas Tamas is?
Well, I
we
think...
have new TTCs. New.
Well, Rajas is the aggressive, agitated, angry state of mind when Rajas is increased considerably, and Tamas is the lazy, lethargic, indolent, procrastinating state of mind where the Tamas is increased. In their normal quantities, actually Rajas and Tamas are good because Sattva is pure, it gives us ideas, Rajas helps us to act on those ideas, and Tamas helps us to rest or stop at the right time. So in balance, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are very good. But for most of us, most of the time, Rajas and Tamas are agitated or aggravated. And that is a prime cause of a lot of our health issues. So the Ayurveda texts actually start by saying Raga di Roga, which means Ayurveda is described for diseases starting with diseases of the mind, not the body. Body is secondary. First address the disease of the mind, first strengthen the mind, the body will automatically be taken care of. It does not mean that we neglect the body, but it means that the mind should be given first priority. And that is where Ayurveda and yoga work together so beautifully, because where Ayurveda ends, yoga begins. Ayurveda, while focusing on the mind, primarily takes care of the body. And yoga, while focusing on the body, primarily takes care of the mind. The yogasanas are not for the body, they're primarily for the mind. The problem that we have today in this world of excesses is what Patanjali says as atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyamcha shadbir yogo vinashyati. He says yoga is not there where we engage in excess food. We eat a lot. Today, consumption is very high. Today, especially we are sitting very close to the land of America, where everything is in large and extra large. Everything is supersized, and which is not really good for all of us. Atyahara is the first thing that goes against yoga. The next one is prayasa, which means excessive work, excessive activity, excessive exercise. Everything is in excess. In Ayurveda also, we use the word ati, which means if we engage in excesses, we will naturally be diseased. We always need to follow the path of moderation, the middle path, where we don't go to either extreme, too much or too little. So excessive food, excessive exercise, excessive talking. So much of talking we do these days. We fast in food, but we rarely fast in words. And actually fasting in food and words need to go together. So we might want to consider that sometimes. I saw the fasting room today. I get lost on this campus, but she showed me the Annapurna house where you get juices when you fast. It's also good to be in silence when you are fasting, I think. Anyway, so excessive talking, excessive work, excessive words, niyamagraha, where we become prisoners of the niyamas. We become obsessed with, if we are doing asana practice, we keep doing asana. One day we don't do asana, we feel terrible. In Vaidyagram, in our Ayurveda space, we advocate complete rest, which means no asana practice. And many of our yoga patients get very restless. No asana practice. That goes against what we have been told. Because Patanjali says abhyasa and vairagya are mandatory. And so even one day without practice is not a good idea. But Patanjali and Charaka as the Ayurveda teacher, both also say that when you are going through a cleansing process, rest is mandatory. Without resting, you cannot be cleansed. And without cleansing, there is no meaning in nourishing. Today we only nourish. We keep eating and eating and eating. We don't think about cleansing. Without cleansing, a glass filled with impure water, if you pour more water into that glass, it only becomes impure, unless the already existing water has been removed. So the principle of cleansing and nourishing is a core principle of Ayurveda, which is why in Ayurveda we say yoga follows on from Ayurveda. After you finish the cleanse, then you move into yoga, and you will actually find your entire system being nourished most beautifully. So the niyamas are important, but they should not control you. You need to control the niyamas. Then there is janasanga. Excessive socializing is also not advocated by Patanjali and also by Charaka. All of this is common. A lot of what is told in yoga is what is told in Ayurveda also. I don't think there is much difference. It is just that yoga spends more time with the mind and Ayurveda spends more time with the body. And the final reason why yoga will not work in most of us is because of excessive restlessness these days, laulyam. Too much. We are very restless. We want to keep moving from one yoga studio to the other, from one system to the next. The mind is always restless. And when the mind is restless, there is no way it can be connected. Yoga is connected. Ayurveda, the word itself, means connectedness between Sharira Indriya, Sattva and Atma. Sharira is the body, Indriya are the senses, Sattva is the mind and Atma is the soul. Sharire Indriya Sattvatma Samyogo Dhari Jivitam Nityagascha Anubandascha Ayurityuchyate, which means the connectedness between the body, Indriya, so the senses, the mind and the soul is what Ayurveda is all about, is what yoga is all about. Bringing that connectedness back, ensuring that that connectedness remains not just within, but also in the external environment. That is basically the philosophy of Ayurveda, and that is why we have been working in the area that we have been working. You had a question? No. Okay. So, it is with these thoughts from the different scriptures, whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's yoga, whether it's the Upanishads, that we started our little work of trying to help people strengthen not just their bodies but also their mind. It's very important to work with the mind. And why I love coming to the Sivananda ashrams, I've been to 1, 2, 3. I was recently in China at the Sivananda Center. I've been to Grass Valley. I've been to Vietnam. I love the practice, the routine from morning till evening. The prayers that start at 6 in the morning and the entire day routine, all the way down till the evening satsang. Because that abhyasa is what in Ayurveda we call achara. Achara is a practice. Acharya is the one who keeps us in the practice. And in Ayurveda, we have two important acharas called dinacharya and ritucharya. Daily routine and seasonal routine. Daily practices and seasonal practices. Unless we stay with these practices, it is very difficult to move ahead in terms of our spiritual growth. And I think at the Sivananda ashrams, you have the perfect practices. So I really love being here. So in Ayurveda also, at Vaidyagram also, we keep trying to help people understand the need for these practices, understand the need for not allowing the mind to waver when they are in treatment and when they go back after treatment. Because one of the big issues we face today is the restlessness, the wavering of the mind, the inability of the mind to stay with a healing process. While Panchakarma or the intense cleansing detoxification programs of Ayurveda considerably help the body to be cleansed of the toxins and also work with the mind in ridding it of a lot of the emotional toxins, ultimately the healer lies within each and every one of us. And unless we are able to strengthen the mind and keep it in the present, the big issue is the mind is always in the past or the future. Every one of us feel that only we have been traumatized. But the fact is all of us have had good and bad days in the past, and we will have good and bad days in the future. By allowing ourselves to remain in the past, we are not doing justice to ourselves, because this life is a wonderful gift, a beautiful gift that has been given to us. And the texts very clearly tell us that do not stay in the past, do not stay with the bad of the past, because there is no way you are going to be able to move forward if you stay with the past. Whatever has happened. Be in the present and keep moving forward. So during our cleansing programs in Vaidyagram, we do facilitate the process for many of our patients to move out of the past and come into the present, and also think about how they can move ahead in the future, in any way, whether it's with the mind, whether it's with the body, whether it's with the food. Our patients just love the food in Vaidyagram. if you come there, you will love the food there, as some of our patients here will vouch for it. It's very simple food. It is food that does not work with the senses. We strongly believe in the policy that what you like is not good for you. That is one of our bylines. What you like is not good for you. So generally, most patients love butter, cheese, and yogurt. At Vaidyagram, we give ample quantities of ghee, buttermilk, and sometimes milk. But we don't touch butter, yogurt, and cheese. So whatever you like, you will not get there. And so the patients learn to love, not love, they learn that food that they don't necessarily like can actually work wonders for them. They learn a very important lesson in Vaidyagram, and many of them, by the time they leave, they actually want to go back and try some of these simple, food is like khichdi, and I think all of you are familiar with some of the simple Indian foods. In fact, as many of you plan to become yogis, there is a little book called Bhikshuka Upanishad, which I recommend that you should read. It has just 5 shlokas, just 5 verses, Bhikshuka Upanishad. And it talks about 4 categories of yogis based on the quantity and type of food that they consume. Generally, across the 4 categories, the maximum quantity consumed is 8 mouthfuls of food in a day. 8 mouthfuls. So the first category is called Kuti Chaka, the second is called Bahudaka, third is called Hamsa, and the fourth is called Paramahamsa. There are 4. So Paramahamsa, we know the Paramahamsa, Yogananda, we've got so many. So the Kuti Chaka category eats 8 mouthfuls of food and does the practices. The Bahudaka means he also drinks a lot of liquid because he's a wandering saint, a wandering mendicant, a wandering yogi. So they also drink a lot of water. The third category is very interesting, that is called Hamsa, where on the next day of the new moon, he has 1 mouthful of food. And on the second day, 2 mouthfuls. Third day, 3 mouthfuls. By the full moon, he has 14 mouthfuls of food, and then again reduces 13, 12, 11, 10. By the time of the new moon, he is again fasting. And the Paramahamsa category eats 8 mouthfuls but is completely secluded in solitude. You don't see them mostly in very intense meditation because the prana is completely derived from the meditation. Very little prana comes from the food that they eat. So actually, what I intended to tell or share with all of you is today we eat food mostly as an obsession. It's more because we have been brainwashed into believing that the more we eat, the better it is for us. And we are given the nutritional values of everything. In my room here, I saw a packet of potato chips and the nutritional value is written. I couldn't read it because it's too small and I can't see. But since I saw nutritional value, I gobbled up the potato chips. That is marketing psychology. Have you seen your Coke bottles? There is a nutritional value on the Coke bottles also. And we are all told that there are healthy snacks. It's an oxymoron. A snack can never be healthy. So, there's so much of obsession with food today. And actually, we don't need to be so obsessed. We really need to take this lifestyle from the ashram here back home. It's a perfect lifestyle. 2 meals a day, simple food, healthy food, a healthy routine, a healthy achar, a healthy abhyas, a practice which will help us to withdraw from the objects of our senses. I think that is basically the lesson that we all need to learn in any healing process. And that is what we have been trying to learn at Vaidyagram also. I have been talking a little too much, I think. Do you want to talk a little bit?
Well, let me say that Dr. Ram Kumar is, he provides very tasty food, it has to be said, and it's delivered to your room, and it's some of the best vegetables we've ever tasted, so we get all excited when there's beets and carrots, and and there's a lot of food, but you invite us not to eat it all, which is nice.
I request them to leave a little bit for the animals. We've got 30 cows in our campus, and we tell people not to treat their stomachs as a garbage bin, to eat what they need and leave the rest. It can go into composting, it can help the animals. There's so much that can be done with the food. Nothing is wasted. Yeah, go ahead.
So nothing is wasted, and you know, it's nice to receive the meal. You're sitting quietly, you eat alone. That helps a lot of people just start to have a relationship with food that's different than social time around a meal. But who are we treating? Like, who am I bringing to be treated? That we, like, for instance, one of the people that came with us had a long-term history with eating disorders and exercise disorders, like a lot of excessive exercise and drug and alcohol disorders. And she had been around the yoga world and the Ayurveda world for a long time and couldn't comprehend what we'd talked about in Ayurveda a lot of times, like to eat warm, moist, cooked food to balance the vata, because she was absolutely convinced that raw kale and smoothies and juices was the way to go, which just further aggravated her system. And now we've converted her to eat like more warm, cooked foods, and that balances and relaxes her whole system. So she's feeling this great difference. And it takes a while for some people to reform a relationship with some of the things that have become disturbed in the addictive behaviors. Some of the other people that go through the treatment with us, say for instance, a young person who was looking to come off some medication that they'd been put on to get them off the original drug of choice. And this is called medication-assisted treatment or medication-assisted detox. But sometimes there's not a mid to long-term plan of what is going to be the plan to get that person off the medication that replaced the original drug. And I do think people need a safe, supportive environment and a timeline to allow that to happen. So we've had people coming off of pharmaceutical drugs, whether it be the medication-assisted treatment drugs or just the mind pharmaceutical drugs for anxiety and depression, that they feel it's ready for them to bring up the practices of yoga and Ayurveda and lifestyle changes that they've made, but have the time to come off of something like that in a supportive environment where they're getting this level of care and getting to know themselves to feel if they could do this when they go home. And also people who are coming off of marijuana and cigarettes, and other people who are in recovery, and when something is wrong with them and they go to the doctor and they're in pain, then they're offered pain medication, and then that's often a slippery slope for people. So people in recovery are sometimes wary of being able to participate in a medical system that offers pharmaceutical solution as one of the most offered solutions. So for instance, we have a very good friend who came who was a Boston fisherman, and with 25 years of recovery perhaps, and had hip replacement and great pain in the body, and again was given the painkillers and started to feel the draw towards the old addictive behavior after 25 years, but that chemical in the body and the fear of experiencing the pain, and he had very little to no experience with yoga or Ayurveda, but now returns every year because it's the only way that he can work with his body without resorting to the painkillers, so that he can have his life where he's able to carry out his job. So when we talk about what we're doing in India, this is not initial detox that we're working with for people, because that's the acute care that the medical system offers within America, hopefully. And it's when people move into recovery that they get into this, what needs to be done. A lot of people, maybe they can't sleep. Maybe they do discover they have an underlying disorder that's becoming more fierce, maybe, now that we've removed the original addictive behavior. So there's a lot of the more subtle work that goes on with the work that you do. And Dr. Ram Kumar likes to terrorize people a little bit with the Vedic knowledge. And, you know, we sit in satsang with him and he tells us we're not to eat the things that we like anymore. But I think our tastes and change as well, which is something that it's hard to manage that from someone giving you a list telling you can't do it. And when you go through this treatment, you find that you don't want to do it. You find yourself more easily detached from some of the things that you were doing that you knew imbalanced you, but you resort to them over and over and over again. So for my work in Yoga of Recovery, it's one of the best places to do that work, where the person can be in receipt of this like deep loving care that is the Ayurvedic medicine. And when we come to those parts where we're meeting the emotional stuff, that a lot of this smoking of cigarettes or like covering it over with too much food, the chips, whatever it is, that leaves the body in disrepair, then we have that opportunity to work with, and you'll meet Scott as he goes through his living inquiries type of thing with you, but that's the support we offer to people as they go through and get into those deeper causes and conditions. And so to be able to work in that holistic way, to not make separation between trauma as if it exists only in the mind as a mind story, but to really incorporate the body in the fullest way, that's a massive turnaround for people. And it's pretty clearly stated in the 12-step program that we are to make use of retreats, to get a little contemplation time, to get time away from the busy life, this restlessness that we have. So when we talk about Rajas and Tamas in Yoga of Recovery, Rajas is the restlessness, and in 12 steps we call it restless, irritable, and discontent. And most of us knock up into that mood state, and then we just want to resolve that. So it's a little bit more TV, it's a little bit more coffee, it's maybe I'll take a sleeping pill tonight to help me get to sleep because my world's crazy and my relationships aren't good. And then that becomes a pattern over time as well. And so this is some of the things that we're dealing with. Also, some of the things that I'm most happy about is that we can take the family of the people that have had addictions, and as they suffer the stress of having children who are living on the streets and using heroin and stuff, that we can take those parents and family members and offer them a system of care which is really not offered by anyone else, like a rehab for the family members, that they can go in and have the stress of watching a loved one in severe self-destructive or behavior that would end them up in jail or in and out of rehabs. Then we're able to offer that level of care to people that have not really been met by the Western medical system, because there isn't much treatment for what we would call codependency, where your whole heart and soul is anguished constantly by the behavior of another. And I know we talked about that today, and we'll talk about it a little bit more probably as we move into the afternoon sessions. Yeah. So there's a false belief that when we talk about addiction, we're really talking about the alcohol and drug user. But in Yoga of Recovery, we deal with all the people affected by addictions. So if there is an availability for you to do this for me, give me a show of hands like this. If you have experienced addiction in your own life, it doesn't mean if alcohol or drugs, any type of addictive behavior in yourself, your loved ones, your family, your co-workers. That's why I'm here. And so the doctor coming from India, it's good to see that. So I'm saying that's maybe 80% of the room have experienced the addictions in others.
Well,
themselves.
In our hospital, on the first day when patients come in, and we have this big case sheet to fill in, and one of the columns is habits, addictions, if any. And a lot of people say no, because for most people, addiction is related to alcohol, nicotine, drugs, etc. And on the second day, most of our patients wake up with a massive headache because we don't serve tea and coffee in our center. And they suddenly realize that actually they have been dependent on tea or coffee. And then as they go along, we don't serve white sugar in our center. So that is again another cause of discomfort for a lot of people. And they gradually start discovering the level of dependence on many small things, on the mobile phone. Our doctors do a lot of prayers in the morning and evening. Just as we have satsangs here, we have prayers at Vedic Ram, morning 6 to 7 and evening 6 to 7, led by the doctors. And their primary prayer is that the mobile should not work, the internet should not work. And the prayers are well answered by the gods. Most of the time, the mobile doesn't work, the internet does not work. And that is again a great source of irritation for a lot of patients. So actually there are many small dependencies, many small areas that we don't associate with. The digital detox is a very important detox today because many of us are becoming prisoners of the digital world. We're becoming prisoners of many, many small things in our life. And what we do try to do is to discover for ourselves. It's not only the patients, even we, all of us are prisoners of some form of dependence or the other. And what we are trying to do is to open ourselves to these dependencies, to understand where they're coming from and see how to work with them, how to correct those dependencies. I think it's 9:45. Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say that in that sense, at your place, you're offered 1 hour of internet a day and you're asked not to use it if you don't really need it. And so that makes you very efficient in your technology. But there are now rehabs called digital detoxes, and I hear they have waiting lists. There's a waiting list to get into the digital detox, so you could just leave your internet turned off and you'd have a waiting list too to come here. So I wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can come and listen to Dr. Ram Kumar again at noon on Wednesday, the 9th of May. You'll hear Dr. Ram Kumar talk again, and then I'll speak at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. And I just wanted to say that I know this is the first evening satsang for TTC after your initiation last night. So this is the first speakers that you've heard. And so if this is a topic that is one of the reasons that you're here, then I'm glad we've met. And you'll see the other speakers in the evening satsangs. And as we said in the workshop today, that some people had come and they didn't know that this was going to be the topic, and yet they found it was the topic that they really needed to be here for. Then there are no coincidences. And so if you see us around, our TTC students, do stop and talk to us, because this is something that we know a lot of people come into the ashram to get away from the habits and behaviors that bind us in our external life. Certainly I came to the ashram for the first time as a smoking rehab, because I came here because you wouldn't let me smoke cigarettes. And so that's the best place I could be at that particular time. And that was back in 2001. So now I have 17 years off of cigarettes, which I'm very grateful for. And it was the ashram teaching me pranayama that taught me how to get beyond that really destructive behavior. So do find us if you can in your break times and you see us, just come and say hello. Because we know some of you, that's probably the reason that you're here. And many of us are here for these reasons. And I want to say thank you for the other speakers. You'll get to hear them over the next couple of evenings. We'll have a panel at the last evening. And so if you have any questions or specific things that you'd like us to talk about, especially if you're not able to be with us in the workshops, then again, just write it down on a piece of paper for us and we'll do our best to answer it when we're all here together, all four of us. So again, thank you so much for allowing us the space to have this symposium. And we look forward to seeing you at the workshops and in the evening satsangs. Thank you, Dr. Ram Kumar.